Moving on, a collection of typed and handwritten letters by Britain's late Princess Diana went up for auction in England.
For decades, rumors swirled in the quiet corridors of royal circles about a mysterious letter that Princess Diana once wrote to her sister-in-law, Princess Anne. Tucked away, hidden from public view, and sealed within a private collection, the letter had long eluded even the most dedicated royal watchers. Whispers of its contents had surfaced in hushed tones at formal receptions, across quiet dinner tables, and through selective leaks to favored biographers, but nothing concrete had ever emerged, until now. At last, the elusive letter has surfaced, offering a rare and electrifying glimpse into the intricate and often turbulent relationship between two of the monarchy's most distinctive women. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. This single document, faded slightly with time but unmistakably penned in Diana's distinct handwriting, was reportedly written during the late 1980s, a period often characterized by emotional turmoil and intense personal reflection for the Princess of Wales. Its very existence challenges assumptions about the relationship between Diana and Anne, which was often assumed to be distant, if not frosty. The tone, tenor, and choice of words reflect layers of emotional complexity, vulnerability, and perhaps a surprising level of candor that few would have expected. What makes this revelation so striking is not just the content of the letter, but the timing of its release. The monarchy stands at a crossroads in modern history, and the surfacing of such a document from the past acts as a haunting echo of unresolved tension and familial discord that once brewed just beneath the polished surface of royal formality. The letter is a kind of time capsule, a silent witness from an era defined by strict public image management, veiled suffering, and deeply personal conflicts hidden behind palace walls. Princess Diana's decision to write such a letter in the first place suggests a yearning to communicate something more intimate and raw than what was ever permitted by public protocol. Anne, known for her no-nonsense demeanor and pragmatic attitude toward royal duties, would not have been the most obvious confidant for the emotionally expressive Diana. And yet, the letter implies that Diana saw a glimmer of understanding, or at least the possibility of being heard, within her sister-in-law. The document is not a political tract, nor is it a formal complaint. Rather, it is an unfiltered stream of personal reflection. There are moments in the letter where Diana seems to be feeling her way through her thoughts as she writes, revealing not only what she experienced but how she processed it emotionally. That kind of interior world was largely hidden from the public during her lifetime, even as she was dubbed the People's Princess. This letter strips away the performance and provides something infinitely more compelling: truth unvarnished. To understand the gravity of this letter, it's essential to consider the complex dynamics between the two women. Princess Anne, the daughter of a queen and a woman forged in the mold of duty, saw herself as a stalwart guardian of tradition and restraint. Diana, by contrast, was catapulted into royal life at a young age, and quickly became overwhelmed by the emotional isolation and rigid expectations that came with her role. In many ways, they were polar opposites: Anne, stoic and steadfast; Diana, intuitive and emotionally radiant. Their public personas rarely overlapped, and media speculation often positioned them as icy toward each other. The existence of this letter upends that narrative. It's possible that Diana wrote this letter during a particularly strained chapter in her marriage to Prince Charles, when she found herself more alone than ever within the royal institution. Her desire to reach out to Anne could be interpreted as an attempt to find solidarity, or even redemption within a family that often treated emotional openness as a liability. That Diana chose Anne, of all people, to be the recipient of this confession speaks volumes. She may have seen Anne not only as a family member, but as someone whose own experience in the royal firmament gave her the capacity to understand the suffocating pressure of life under constant scrutiny. The tone of the letter, now finally public, veers from introspective to quietly pleading. There's a quiet courage in its composition, a willingness to confront personal pain and risk judgment in the hopes of achieving some kind of emotional resonance. Diana does not point fingers or descend into bitterness. Instead, she seems to be reaching out with the cautious hope that someone might understand the aching solitude she endured behind palace walls. The language is lyrical at times, with metaphorical flourishes that suggest how deeply she felt things, how intensely she perceived her own reality, even as she performed a different one for the cameras. The letter also hints at moments shared between the two women that were never captured by press or public. There are references to past conversations, mutual acquaintances within the royal household, and subtle nods to internal politics that when read now, shed new light on how Diana navigated her increasingly fractured world. This is not merely a letter between two royal women, it's a roadmap through the emotional terrain of palace life, one that underscores how rarely genuine emotional exchange occurred in an environment obsessed with appearances. Even without direct quotes, one can sense the themes that pulse beneath the letter's surface: alienation, identity, longing, and a search for emotional legitimacy. Diana may not have felt close to Anne in a conventional sisterly way, but her decision to write to her signals a recognition that Anne was a player in the same theater, one who might have understood more than she let on. That she wrote instead of speaking to Anne directly also speaks volumes. In a world where every conversation could be overheard or distorted, a handwritten letter offered a form of control and intimacy that no whispered words ever could. One of the most telling aspects of this revelation is what it suggests about the role of women in the royal family. Both Diana and Anne, though vastly different in temperament, were shaped and sometimes wounded by the same expectations and structures. While Anne managed to armor herself against those pressures, Diana internalized them in a way that ultimately unraveled her. The letter is an unwitting study in contrast and comparison, offering future generations a deeper understanding of the emotional price of monarchy. What's more, this letter underscores the deeply human need for connection, even in the most isolated and structured environments. Diana's writing is suffused with emotional intelligence, but it also reveals someone who was trying to find common ground, to locate an ally in a place where alliances were rare and trust was scarce. It is a remarkable gesture, and one that reframes the entire mythology around her persona. No longer is Diana simply the tragic heroine or the media-savvy icon. This letter reveals her as a woman fully aware of her circumstances, struggling not just to survive, but to make sense of them. The timing of the letter's unearthing also adds an eerie poignancy. It arrives into the public eye not during a royal scandal or in the heat of another documentary cycle, but in a moment when the monarchy is once again attempting to define itself in an increasingly skeptical world. That this intimate communication from a bygone era has surfaced now feels less like coincidence and more like a reminder that beneath all the pomp and ceremony, the royal family is still a family, fractured and flawed. There's a sacredness to the handwritten word, especially when it comes from someone whose life was dissected in the tabloids with relentless intensity. The letter provides Diana with a new kind of voice, one unfiltered by media spin or ghost-written autobiography. It is a primary document of emotion and intent, a relic of authenticity in a world that often demanded performance. There's a texture to her words, now deciphered and authenticated, that brings the reader into her inner sanctum, even if only briefly. What makes this discovery monumental is not just what it reveals about Diana, but what it opens up in terms of historical narrative. Biographers, historians, and those who have followed the House of Windsor for generations now have to reckon with a new piece of the puzzle. Every documented moment, every interview, every public appearance gains a new layer of depth in the light of this letter. It may not change history, but it certainly deepens it. The reverberations of this letter will not end with its contents alone. It prompts questions about what else remains hidden, tucked away in the quiet archives of royal estates or in private collections shielded from public view. Diana was known to write frequently. Letters, notes, cards, often filled with symbolic or emotionally charged language. If this letter to Anne survived, what others might still exist? And what stories might they tell? Not just about Diana, but about the entire structure she tried so hard to navigate and eventually escape. This moment also calls attention to Princess Anne herself, a woman who has long stood just outside the center of public attention. While often praised for her tireless work ethic and guarded demeanor, Anne now emerges as a figure who may have played a more significant emotional role in the palace dynamic than previously thought. Her decision to preserve the letter, if indeed she was its keeper, suggests respect, maybe even empathy, despite their differences. There's also something powerfully cinematic about this discovery. The letter reads like the first page of a diary never meant to be shared, and yet its emergence now feels timely, almost faded. It functions as both a relic and a revelation, a bridge between eras, between two women who represented vastly different interpretations of what it meant to be royal. Its power lies not just in what it says, but in the questions it forces us to ask. Was Diana's intention ever for this letter to be read beyond its intended recipient? Almost certainly not, and yet, now that it has entered the public domain, it holds the power to humanize, to complicate, and perhaps even to heal some of the narrative wounds inflicted over decades of media speculation and institutional denial. It is a reminder that even in the most gilded cages, the desire for truth and connection endures. The unveiling of this letter also casts a subtle but unignorable shadow on the present. With new generations of royals trying to craft their own identities within the same institution, Diana's words resonate more than ever. Her reflections serve as both a warning and a beacon, a reminder of the toll that silence and stoicism can exact, and of the strength it takes to reach out, even when the world is watching. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on Diana's lost letter finally being revealed? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.